to today's episode of Linking In with Louise. Today I have the very lovely Amy Grubb, who is a sole practitioner in law. I'm going to let Amy introduce herself properly. In Canada, and Amy and I have, we've met each other in person, and also I recently did a training for her mastermind of very nice female Canadian lawyers. So Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Louise, so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, I think. So can you tell everybody who's listening a little bit about yourself and what you do in your business and how you help people?
Sure. So I am a sole practitioner in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I am a commercial lawyer. So that means I do commercial contracts and I take on overflow work primarily for other lawyers, law firms, and in-house counsel. So I do a lot of work in the technology space. And then I also have my own end clients as well. And I also help other lawyers through coaching and consulting, specifically lawyers who are looking to go solo, or maybe they're already solo and they're struggling a bit and need a little bit of help to bring in new business and just different things that they need for their practices.
Cool. So let's go back into that a little bit. Before you went out on your own, where did you work?
I worked in Toronto for a long time. When I first started my career, that's where I was a student. And in Canada, you have to article before you become a lawyer. So I worked at the same law firm as an articling student. And then they hired me back in Toronto. And then shortly after that, I decided to move to Ottawa. So that's about 4 hours away from Toronto. And I worked for a large international firm and I was in their business group and I did all kinds of business work. So I did a lot of transactional work. I did a lot of financing. It was just a really exciting place to work, and there was always so much going on, and really, really smart, intelligent lawyers that I worked with every day.
What size of a company would that have been, Amy?
It's a good question. I think we probably had 30 to 40 lawyers.
Oh, cool.
But I mean, across Canada, I would guess we're in the high hundreds. It's a global firm now. So they are, when I first joined, it was just Canadian. It was called Ogilvy Renault. But now it's Norton Rose Fulbright. So they're a worldwide firm with thousands and thousands of lawyers.
Oh, wow. So my husband actually works for a global law firm, not as a lawyer. It's probably a similar type of space, but we'll not name it or him.
Okay.
Did you grow up in Ottawa or did you grow up in Toronto?
No, I actually grew up in a smaller town called Windsor. So it's a border city with the United States.
I've been
there? No way.
Yes.
Too funny.
When I was growing up, my dad, sorry, everyone who's listening is just going to go, here goes Louise in a ramble now. My dad's uncle, Clifford, lived in Michigan, and we used to fly to Toronto every summer. Well, like for about 5 years, every summer. And we'd spend a month staying with my dad's uncle and his aunt Lillian. Their kids were grown up by this stage. And because they came from Northern Ireland, they missed stuff like fish and chips and all that kind of stuff. And we used to go to Windsor for fish and chips.
Oh, that is too funny. So I was going to say it's a border city right with Detroit. It's across the river.
Yes.
So, that is so funny.
That's such a small world.
It is. So I grew up there. That's where I went to law school, and then I eventually moved to Toronto after that. And now I've been in Ottawa for forever. Like what is it now? 13 years I've been here.
And what's Ottawa like?
So Ottawa is actually the capital of Canada. So there are a lot of beautiful buildings, a lot of government workers here. It's a very laid back city and it's very outdoorsy. We have lots of parks, like there's water. People have cottages that are within a half-hour drive. So it's a very, people tend to have a pretty healthy lifestyle. It's fairly conservative, but it's a really great place for raising a family.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I love my Canadians, have to say. All the Canadians listening are going, yes, of course, we're the best.
That's right.
Yeah, oh, I can totally imagine it. We had a Canadian stay here. My kids were in Scouts until it kind of disbanded a little bit last year, but we had visiting Scouts from Vancouver, and we had 2 Canadian Scouts stay in our house. And they then invited us out to stay with them. And actually, they wanted my son to go out on his own. Yeah, he's 12. I was like, my child is not flying to Canada without me.
So did you go to Vancouver and stay with them?
No, we didn't, because it would have been around now, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to take them up on it, because it is beautiful there.
I can imagine. Well, we were supposed to go to stay in Las Vegas and Phoenix with my brother-in-law. So, like, I don't know, we can't really afford 2 big trips like that in one year. Now we're not doing that one either. Anyway, let's move on. Let's hope we can travel again someday.
We will.
Yeah, we will. So what led you to leave this law firm, which sounds like actually it was a really nice place to work, to go out on your own?
Yeah, it was a fantastic place to work. And I was working on some really big deals and files that were in the newspaper, and it was very exciting.
Yeah.
But over time, I had kids, I got married, I had kids, and working the crazy hours that I was used to, it wasn't working with my schedule anymore. And it didn't really fit with my lifestyle. As a lawyer in a large firm, you're really busy. So I decided actually to take some time away. So I left the firm, and I was just trying to figure out, okay, what's my next step? And what do I want to do? And so I actually started an online business, totally not law related. I had a business partner, and we started an online gift shop.
Oh my goodness, this is so funny, because Amy, the podcast before you, and everyone who's listening week by week, will be laughing, because Amanda, who was on last week's podcast, left a career in film to start a gift basket business, and then moved into what she's doing now. So this is so interesting.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. Okay, I'm going to have to listen to that one.
Yeah.
So I was running this online gift shop, and it opened this whole new world to me of online businesses and all of these events and groups that were created for online entrepreneurs. So I hadn't really experienced that as a lawyer. A lot of the networking I did as a lawyer was with some of the larger companies, more corporate events, whereas the events I was going to, they were more laid back, like people weren't wearing suits. And it was just a really great atmosphere. So when I would be at these events, you'd be talking to people, and I would tell them what I did. And then of course, at some point they would find out that I have a law degree. So they had a million questions, and I had people lining up, and I was saying, no. But it kind of turned on, it was a light bulb moment for me.
Yes.
Of, wow, I could do this on my own and bring in a totally different type of client than when I was at a larger firm.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to go out on my own. So initially I did work for entrepreneurs. So for example, I did a lot of work with photographers and graphic designers and interior designers. And then when I was setting up, I was trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean to go solo? What do I need to do? And I met with a whole bunch of solo lawyers, and they would say to me, oh, you've got great experience. Why don't you come work for us? We need people. And so I would say, well, thank you, but I'm not interested. And so that was another light bulb moment where I realized these solo small firm lawyers, they need help. They need more staff, but they might not necessarily have it in the budget to afford someone full time.
Yes.
So that's where the idea of this overflow freelancing career started. So initially I was doing work for lawyers and for entrepreneurs, whereas now I would say it's about 85% of my work is for other lawyers, law firms, and in-house counsel.
First of all the people who are listening who are in corporate who are going, what are these other networking events where you don't have to wear suits? There's a whole world out there that is outside of your career or corporate job where people like Amy and I are like learning how to market ourselves online and doing live video and doing masterminds and going to events where people end up drinking wine in the hot tub.
And it really is a whole another world. And so you and I met through one of these Facebook groups that's geared towards female entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I find these communities to be very supportive.
Yes.
They are looking to create a community, help one another out, teach each other, and it's very receptive to people asking questions. Whereas at some of the corporate events, it was just much more stale and not that exciting. So it really was an eye-opener for me of a different way to learn about business, to get to know people, and to network and have fun at the same time. Yes.
I'm interested in the way you ended up working more like in the overflow for other small law firms or maybe other solo lawyers. Because one of the things about working with entrepreneurs who are wonderful, wonderful people, but sometimes it's harder to kind of get the sale over the line and you're chasing people. Potentially, they don't really appreciate how much it costs to have legal support. But I'm just guessing this, Amy. If you have built these relationships up with other lawyers, they know exactly what hourly rate or day rate they would pay you and that you would accept because you're in the same field. Would that be reasonable to say?
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I really like working with lawyers is that they know when they give me a 20-page contract, it's going to take me a few hours to review it and think about it. And I can't just turn it around in an hour and give them all of the answers. So not only they understand the time, but they also give really clear instructions. They know exactly what they want. Whereas sometimes when I'm working with entrepreneurs, they're not quite sure. They know they need some help, but they're not quite sure what that is. Yes. And also there's the sticker shock factor for sure. And so one thing I did when I was doing more work with entrepreneurs was I had created contract templates that I sold through my website. So if you wanted, a confidentiality agreement or a podcast guest agreement or something like that, you could just go to my site, you could download it, and then it just has, little fields that you fill out the information. Yes. And so that's a much cheaper way to access legal documents. I don't do that anymore, but there are some companies that are doing that, and so it's a tough situation. But I do think technology is changing, and people are finding new ways to provide legal services to smaller businesses that's more cost efficient.
Can I ask why you don't? Like, if you created those templates, why do you not still sell them? Is it because you have to keep updating them?
No, it was just because I really wanted to focus more on lawyers. Yeah. And I didn't want to confuse the market. Yes. It was a bit there. I had too much going on because I also coach lawyers as well. And so I just thought I want to focus as much as I can on lawyers. Yeah. So that was why I did that.
Which I'm sure as people who listen regularly will know, when you focus in on that particular area, it just becomes much easier, doesn't it? Business is easier. It's easier to refer business to you. It's easier to market yourself as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like when people know exactly what you do, then they're going to come to you for that. But if I'm just a general lawyer, I'm not going to get as much work or specific work as when I say I do commercial contracts for other lawyers.
Yes. Now, I have worked with a lot of people in the legal industry here in Northern Ireland. And one of the big issues that they